Hey everyone, welcome to Points in the Paint, brought to you by For Fantasy Sake, sponsored by Yard Barbers. We're here to talk some basketball. Usually we're on here Thursday night, but I had a scheduling conflict, so we moved the week show to tonight. But we will be back in action on Thursday, whatever date this upcoming Thursday is. I think it's the 1st. I could be wrong.
It's the first. Just
No
schedule my
April
oil
Fool's
change.
about it.
Yeah.
But a lot has happened since we last saw each other. Obviously, the craziness of the tourney. First 2 rounds done and over with. We are into the Sweet 16. We've only got a couple games left to figure out who's in the Elite Eight. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little disappointed Oral Roberts didn't get in the Elite Eight.
I feel the same way about Loyola Chicago.
I wanted to.
They only lost by 2. I didn't even realize
my bracket was just shot after the first weekend.
Yeah.
And at that point, I just wanted to see a Cinderella story.
I didn't realize. Yeah.
I wanted to see Oral Roberts, or I wanted to see Loyola. I wanted to see some small school make it to at least the Final Four, just to throw a wrench into some things and be crazy.
Yeah. Oral Roberts only lost by 2 points to Arkansas. I didn't know it was that close. That's good.
They took it to him. It literally came down to the last shot.
Of course it did. That's how these games should be. That's why I think those first round games, if you're like in a back and forth winning by 1 or 2 points, that always gives me like a little pause for concern. That's why I was a little scared about Ohio State when they were playing Oral Roberts. I'm like Ohio State, you should be dominating this first round game. You should be up by like 40. But when you're like playing that close that first round game, that should be usually like the second weekend or something. So these are the games. I mean, even the Villanova game was 11 points, and I thought Villanova was actually going to pull that off. So I remember messaging you about that. Loyola Chicago, they only lost by 7. That was an 8-12 matchup. So I mean, that's good. Syracuse got their butts handed to them, but yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to matchups a lot of the times.
It really does. I'm just surprised that Villanova even made it this far.
I know. That's why I was messaging you. You told me they're going to lose their first game, and I'm like, man, Andrew, I'm telling you, this team is well coached. Jay Wright, and they lost their point guard and their backup point guard, but they're still well coached.
I sat there and I watched them lose like their last couple regular season games, and it was just like, I can't take this team seriously in the tournament. There's no way. They lose to Georgetown. They lose to, I think they lost to Butler too. And it was just, it was one of those things where you're just like, I can't pick them to win over, I don't remember who they played, to be honest. Winthrop. I couldn't take them seriously. But I mean, I didn't.
Yeah.
I also didn't take. I didn't take Oregon seriously either, and they destroyed the Hawkeyes. It was not a good game.
That was a retaliation game because remember we beat them like a year or 2 ago when they had Bowl. And that one, and I think they remembered that game because the way they came out like gangbusters and they literally just handed it to us.
But there's the thing is that Iowa just stayed in the zone defense. They practically in the entire game.
Not athletic. We're not athletic enough to match. That's the problem for Iowa. And I always say this is we're not athletic enough to match up with some of these top tier teams, and we're not strong enough. If you look at the game and our turnovers, like guys like we came driving to the hole and just losing the ball, and I mean I said this a couple of years ago. I said we should hire, and I mean he's no longer with the school, but I said we should hire Chris Doyle, but the former strength coach for the football team. We should have him work with the basketball program because the guys there just get pushed around. I remember that Tennessee game 2 years ago when we forced overtime, but literally like we were just getting manhandled. And I'm like, we're just not strong enough and athletic enough to compete with some of these top tier teams. And that always shows in the tournament games because when we lose these games, we're getting blown out. We're just getting outplayed. Like I'm watching the game and guys are just getting like CJ Frederick struggling to keep up with guys, Connor McCaffrey. I mean, we're just not that athletic. And that always comes back to bite us.
But I get not being athletic, not as athletic.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same token, you can't just sit back in that defense the entire game and just let them have their way with you. Mix it up, throw a wrench into it. I was if they would have switched to man, I wasn't expecting them to keep up with them. But at least when you're in man, you're close enough to throw a hand in their face. Because in that zone defense, they were having trouble covering those spots.
Tough.
I get it. I see both sides, but it was frustrating to watch that game and know that the team wasn't doing everything that they probably should have been doing.
So I was at the airport getting ready to fly back into town, watching it, and I'm just like I had my Iowa jacket on too, and I was like, come on, guys. But I could see the writing on the wall, like just the way the game was going and the runs they were getting out to. And then we were just these careless turnovers. And like they were speeding us up too on offense. Like we were rushing stuff. I'm just like, you know what? It's just it's just a bad matchup this year. And I mean, we played them a couple of years ago. We were a lot better. And I remember we beat them in the surprisingly game. I think we beat them in Connecticut in the early tournament. And we had Bull, but he got hurt that game. He got hurt like shortly after he missed the season. I mean, he got drafted, but
yeah,
it's tough, man. I get it, but I mean, if you're Iowa, but like I saw a stat, we haven't made the Sweet 16, and I mean, Fran's whole tenure there. So, you look at a school like Loyola, they made the Sweet 16 like last two times in the last like 5 years. And they're in my backyard. The players they get, I mean, the recruits they get are not as good as the recruits Iowa should get, or hypothetically, they shouldn't be.
So the secret is Sister Jean. That is the secret.
She's a secret sauce.
Yep. We need to trade for Sister Jean and just call it a day.
Might be on something there.
Iowa offer Sister Jean a full ride scholarship just to come and hang out.
President of basketball operations.
Yep.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I think her and Fran would gel great.
I don't know if Fran would be there, to be honest.
They just gave him a contract extension, so
I would have canned Fran. But yep. So this second game today was decided. Michigan obviously beating Florida State. I'm a little surprised that Florida State didn't score more because Michigan's not that great on defense.
You don't think so?
I expected that game to be the other way around, where Michigan scored more, or where Florida State scored more against Michigan, and Michigan, Florida State has a good defense.
Yeah,
I mean
they're both good defensive teams. That's why I wanted to see that game. Unfortunately, I actually fell asleep and took a nap before this, and I missed the tail end of it. But if you saw Michigan's not last game, when they played LSU, they were they're in a mismatch problem, and they tightened up their defense in that first half. And I watched them get stops, and I mean, and they're well coached too. Jalon Howard, and I actually have a buddy who's from the Detroit area, and he talked about an assistant coach that they have on Michigan who's really, really good. So they're well coached as well. So I'm not surprised that Michigan lost one of their best players to, I think, Isaiah Livers, and yet they're still, they're going to lead them.
Yeah, I think towards the end of the year.
Yeah, literally right before the Big Ten tournament or right around that time, and yet they're still moving on just because they're well coached. This is like where you really see these well coached teams kind of separate themselves from the pack. Like we're starting to see this. That's why this tournament has been very interesting. Not to mention, obviously, pandemic, going on and everything. So, and you don't have your Dukes.
Never really threw a wrench into some things for a lot of the teams that we normally see in the tournament. Like Duke, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Because I think, even with the awful year that they had, I think we still would have seen them in the tournament.
Yeah.
So just going off the games we have left tonight, who is your pick to move on to the last two remaining spots in the Elite Eight? We've got UCLA and Alabama, and Oregon and USC.
I'm gonna take Alabama over UCLA. I seen Alabama throttle who they close to Maryland. I think they throttled Maryland. And UCLA even. I'm surprised UCLA made it that far because UCLA played Michigan State in that playing game. Remember that? And I bet on UCLA, even though I usually go with the Big Ten, but I just don't like their Michigan State team this year. But I'm gonna take Alabama over UCLA. And that Oregon USC game, USC is a 2-point favorite, and I think I'm gonna roll with USC just the way they handled. I guess both teams beat their last game. Like Oregon beat Iowa, and USC beat Kansas. But man, the way USC demolished Kansas, I think I'm gonna take USC. And I think they have like a really stud freshman. I'm gonna take Evan Mobley. Yeah, for USC. Um, who's really good. So I'm gonna take he's a big man, he's 7 footer. I'm gonna take USC, and it's a Pac-12 battle.
Yeah,
USC Oregon, which you love. So I'm gonna take Alabama and USC.
I like that. I'd like to think the team that beat Iowa should go on. So I'm excited to Oregon just for the sole fact that I can say, well, the Hawkeyes lost to a really good team, which they
That's
did.
what. That's when
Regardless.
Iowa lost to Villanova a couple years ago. I'm like, well, the Hawkeyes lost to the champions, so
Exactly. I just want to be able to say that. Well, like, of course we lost. They were the champions. Like, but no, I think you're right about that. UCLA or Alabama, just cruises past UCLA. Although UCLA has been playing pretty good basketball, so I think UCLA puts up a little bit more of a fight than Maryland did. But I think that Oregon, like you said, that Pac-12 matchup is going to be huge. I think it's going to be a very good game. But enough about college basketball. Let's move on to the wonderful world of the NBA. Bulls, huge moves for the Bulls at the trade deadline, and the Magic just practically going on a fire sale and selling everybody that they can. The Bulls are able to land Vooch along with Al-Farouq Aminu. Did cost them a little bit. They had to send Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter, and then 2 firsts. So they'll miss their first round pick this year, and then in 2023, they'll keep it in 2022. But I like the trade. We talked a little bit about it before the show. What do you expand on your thoughts? Because you had a lot to say prior to the show.
So I with you. I love the trade as well. I hate giving up draft picks. Especially in football. Obviously we just did our last lottery draft pick to get Patrick Williams. I hate giving up draft picks, but I do love our management team, and I think that the draft picks that we do have remaining, they'll be able to find some valuable players in the draft, whether they're late second round picks or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a second round pick and we're able to snag a guy like Luka Garza who falls in the second round. Smart. We'll be able to draft. We'll draft well. And I'm not, I like it. Like I said earlier, Wendell Carter is a great player, but he's just kind of an undersized big. He's probably more of a power forward than a center. And so it just really wasn't a good fit in Chicago with Lowry. If we had, I don't know, him playing alongside somebody else, maybe it could have been better. Otto Porter Jr., I knew he was going to get moved because he's got an expiring contract, and he's been injured a lot. He's never really been that guy. And I don't know if you ever saw him play at college, but at Georgetown, his game was just silky smooth, playing in that Princeton offense. And you just thought, man, he's going to go to the league. He's going to be a 20 and he's going to be 20 plus points easily. He could 3, he can guard the 1 through the 4, and he just never really. He was a number 3 pick, and it just never panned out.
Yep.
But his game was just so smooth. But and now he's already go to Washington. I'm sure he's in the. He might get bought out, but he'll probably, after this season, he'll be a free agent. Maybe he signs with a contender or something like that. I do like Al-Farouq Aminu. I've been watching him a lot too. He played at Wake Forest, and he's 2010 draft class. He's another solid wing defender that we can add, and I think that's somebody that Pat Williams can kind of learn from as well. Patrick Williams will probably play more over Aminu, but Aminu's another wing defender, 6'8" guy who can guard, no perimeter, and Aminu could hit the 3, and he just gives us insurance in that position. He could play the 4 if. So Patrick Williams or Thad Young get hurt, he can easily back them up. I'm so glad we got rid of Chandler Hutchinson because that was a terrible pick. And I've been calling him a bust even before he suited up in uniform. That was just such a terrible pick. And I'm glad he's gone. And, he couldn't be out the door fast enough. He never did anything for us. And, I think that I only saw him maybe once try to dunk on somebody. That's like the only highlight I ever had from him his whole tenure in the Bulls. So that was good to get rid of that. But that get rid of him. Who else did we? And that was good. And we kept Denzel, which I like.
Yep.
And I was also hearing that the Bulls are trying to trade. They're going to trade Lowry along with that pick to Orlando, but we wanted a first round pick for Lowry, and Orlando didn't want to give that up. So even though we gave up 2 first round picks, our management was smart trying to get another pick in return, and that pick would have been like a top 10 pick or something. So I'm like, Orlando's like, nah, we can wait, what I'm saying? But what we can do in the offseason, though, and a lot of people aren't thinking about it, too, is we could do a sign and trade. We could do a sign and trade of Lowry, trade him to like a team like Orlando and get some draft picks. Hey, what about Oklahoma City Thunder? They have like 14 draft picks. They have like 30 something draft picks in the next like so draft. Hey,
Next
we'll do a
three,
sign and trade. We'll
they have
give
like
you
30
this.
draft picks within the next 3 years. It's like
We'll
crazy.
do we'll do a sign and trade, and we'll give you, this thing, give us like 4 or 5 draft picks for Lowry. You know what I'm saying? And he's only 23, 24. You pair him with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's a nice little duo in Oklahoma City. We can go to one of these teams that pick heavy, and we can still trade Lowry. And then I still like our core. We keep Zach, we keep Kobe. You got Pat Williams. You still got Vucevic. Thad Young is only like 31, 32. You still got a nice little core. You keep Satoransky. Maybe you go out and get Lonzo Ball still. I mean, you can, and then trade Lowry. So I mean, we're in a great position to stand pat with our core, but we can also be flexible moving forward. So I love it. Obviously I can talk about this all day, but I'm going to be in Chicago next weekend, so I'm looking forward to just being back in the city and soaking up some of that energy. I know like I don't know if you saw that meme that it was posted in the page. It was like the Bulls are back, and it was like, well, what did you give up? It was the Bears. I'm like, that's so true, dude, because the Bears are going to be terrible this year, but the
Yeah.
Bulls, I can't wait to go to a game. I mean, I hope they open up seating this year, but it'd be kind of a stretch. Maybe if they do like the playing games or something, or just later on in the season. But next year for sure, I'm definitely going to a game or two. I'm not even. I mean, it's gonna be exciting to go back. I haven't been to a game in ages, but yeah, since high school. So I'm excited. If you couldn't tell.
No, and you should be. All the Bulls fans should be, because what they did is they went out and they got a lot of depth for their
Yeah,
team. So that
exactly.
when they are subbing out, that the players that are coming in are still going to produce. That it's not falling on Zach and Kobe's shoulders the entire time.
Yep.
Because that's kind of what we were finding within. If Zach and Kobe were off, guess what? The Bulls were not winning.
And I think Kobe still has a lot of room to grow. And if I'm management, I go tell Kobe, and I mean, it kind of falls on him too. Like, hey, get him watching film on some of the top point guards in the league, or the point guards in of time. Like, watch film on Steve Nash and Chris Paul. You should. I mean, you played with Chris Paul's AAU team. You know Chris Paul. You're both in the North Carolina area. Like, watch film on Chris Paul, how he can run the offense. And listen, you can learn a lot. I mean, Kobe played with the ball in his hands in North Carolina. I think Kobe could be a really great combo guard. I keep trying to say maybe he's a point guard, but he could score the ball. He could hit threes, but I think he could be a good combo guard. But his decision making has to improve. That's why they kind of want Lonzo to take the ball out of his hands. But I think he could still kind of be that, that combo guard that we need. And Zach obviously is just cold blooded. Zach can be our scorer and do everything that we need to do. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited about the direction of the Chicago Bulls.
Well, the Eastern Conference is going to be absolutely insane because we've got the Knicks at the 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
They are 8 games back from Philly.
You said the Knicks are the 4th seed right now?
Knicks are the 4 seed as of right now, right this second.
Jeez, man, what did I miss?
And the Bulls are 4 games behind the Knicks. And the Bulls are on the bubble right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the Hornets at 5, there's the Hawks at 6, there's the Celtics at 7. Celtics are falling. There's the Heat at 8. The Heat have kind of fell too.
Yeah, they have.
And then you got the Pacers right there. You've got the Raptors that are right behind the Bulls. All these teams are 4 or 5 games out from, the 4 seed. So it's going to be so tight, and deciding those 4 through 8 seeds coming up in the playoffs, it's going to be a race, and it's going to be a fight. And all those moves the Bulls just made, I think, are only going to help them.
We can catch Charlotte because Charlotte just lost. I guess LaMelo might come back, but I mean, Charlotte's still good without him. They still got Rozier and Graham and Hayward, but Atlanta, I'm not sure. They gave up on Rondo. Indiana, yeah, we lost a couple, but yeah, we lost 3. That's because we were 19. Okay. I think we can if we can get our core together and gel, we should be able to sneak in. But I don't want to play Philly or Brooklyn in the first. I mean, I don't even want to play Milwaukee. I kind of want to be the 5th seed so we can play New York in the first round.
I think you wind up getting. I think the Bulls realistically wind up getting in at the 7 seed, and they probably wind up either playing.
Brooklyn?
I honestly don't think Brooklyn finishes first. I think Brooklyn finishes with the 2 seed, maybe the 3.
And Brooklyn's been like KD's been out. I think I'm sure like they've been in and out of the lineup. So yeah, that's it. It'll be interesting. It's gonna really be really meaty as the season kind of progresses. I'm a little off topic here, but I just saw this article come in. Mike Woodson, the former coach of the Knicks, just got hired by Indiana, University of Indiana. So that's pretty interesting. I don't know if you remember Mike Woodson. He coached the Knicks for a little bit, and he coached the Hawks. He coached the Hawks first, and then he coached the Knicks.
Yeah, I remember him coaching the Knicks. I didn't know he came from the Hawks, though.
Yeah, he was the Hawks, and I can't remember if it was before. I think it was the Hawks before the Knicks. They also had Larry Drew as their coach, but yeah, Mike Woodson, and Mike Woodson's the Indianapolis native, so he played for the Hoosiers. So that's great, great for him. I thought he was a good coach for the Knicks. I thought he kind of got the raw end of the stick when he got canned. So congrats to Coach Woodson there.
What Knicks coach hasn't gotten the short end of that stick?
That's true, dude. If you're a Knicks coach, I mean Thibodeau, I think is good, and I mean obviously he's got them in the right direction. The fact that they're in the playoff, they're fourth in the East. So Tibbs is doing his job. But that's what Tibbs does. He typically always gets results wherever he goes, except Minnesota when Jimmy Butler's gone. But.
Yeah. But so that's looking at the East. Brooklyn is a little bit of a. I hate Brooklyn.
Yeah, everybody's starting.
At the beginning of the year, I really, really liked Brooklyn. I like the Nets, and I am at the point where I absolutely hate them now. Just they're going out and they're getting all these players, all these. I'm not going to call them has-beens because they're not has-beens. Blake Griffin still produces. LaMarcus Aldridge still produces. KD, when he's on the court, is always a threat. Kyrie is always a threat to score as well. James Harden he's a very, very good basketball player. DeAndre Jordan might be the has-been on the team. But now they're, like I said, they just were able to go and sign LaMarcus Aldridge after his buyout with the Spurs. Now they're also looking at possibly adding Boogie Cousins. At what point do you just, if you're a superstar in the league or we're a superstar, are you going to the Nets to just be on the Nets and be on a absolutely stacked team, or are you going there to say, hey, I can still play? Because if you're still trying to say, hey, I can still play, you're not trying to join a super team. You're not trying to take reduced minutes and play behind a bunch of other people.
I mean, if you're DeMarcus Cousins, I mean, I feel like wherever DeMarcus Cousins goes, he always, I don't know, it's like he's just I don't want to use this word, or I want to use this word. He's kind of like a plague, and it's like wherever he goes, it's just like when he was in Houston, you thought, okay, he plays for a year, get his legs under him, and all of a sudden, oh well, him in Houston. It's like I don't know if it's his attitude or what. And I mean, I think he could threaten a locker room, especially a championship locker room. I think he could he could do more harm than good. And I think he can find himself out the league, and he could be the next, like how Dwight Howard was kind of ostracized as like as a toxic player. Let's just say toxic. He was toxic to the locker room and stuff like that. Everybody likes using the word toxic nowadays. But and I mean, DeMarcus Aldridge, Andre Drummond, all this, really to beat LeBron. Like let's keep all
Yeah,
this in
that's all this is.
perspective. All of this. In Brooklyn, what's funny about this too is remember when Brooklyn got that owner, the Russian guy, Mikhail Prokhorov, like in 2013, whatever, and he's like, we were gonna do this the right way, we're gonna build a championship. Then he proceeded to just stow money, like Darren Williams, 100 million, Joe Johnson, we traded, we'll give you the max, Gerald Wallace, Chris Humphreys. We were paying all these guys all this money. Oh, here's 2 years and 30 million. I'm like, that guy should really only like 8 million. Oh, no, we're gonna give him 30 million. This guy gets 40 million. And then we're going to trade our draft picks for Paul Pierce and KG and just spend all this money trying to, buy a championship team. And that's what Brooklyn's trying to do now again. And it's not even the same owner. It's fun. It's so funny to me. All my friends from New York just from the Brooklyn B. The Brooklyn B word. And it's hilarious to me that they're still doing this. And you're not doing this the right way. You're trying to shortcut the process.
Yeah.
And even you're trying to shortcut the process. The Lakers the Lakers had their young core or whatever. LeBron joined, was the superstar. They tried that didn't really work. So then they used some of their young core to bring in another established player. And then they had the established players, and then they had the other, they still had great role players around them, the KCPs, around those and whatnot. I mean, even the Clippers are trying to do that. You have your two guys, and now you got a veteran Rondo, you have your Ibaka, your other veterans Batum, and you're trying to surround them with other role players. But Brooklyn's just let's just sign this guy, that guy. Oh, let's sign this guy, and then that guy. And I really hope Brooklyn gets trounced in the first round or so. Too myself, I do. It's too much, man. And then what do you do moving forward if you don't win this year? What do you do after that?
Well, that's the thing is moving forward, they don't have a whole lot of picks to look forward to because they just gave up a shit ton for James Harden, and now they've signed Blake Griffin and Aldridge to 1-year deals. They signed Boogie to a 1-year deal. How many bigs do you need on the floor at once?
So Boogie is confirmed going there, or is this just?
I was talking like if they do, but they confirmed Aldridge.
Yeah, I saw Aldridge.
Obviously already there. DeAndre Jordan, you already have so many big guys down there, and you're not going to have them all run the floor at once.
You never know, man. They can call that the big lineup. Just how Golden State had their Hampton Five lineup when they had they had Curry, Thompson, Green, Iguodala, and another. I think who else it was. That's called their depth lineup, something like that. They had a crazy lineup. That could be Brooklyn's lineup.
McGee.
No, it was another shooter or something. I think it might have been KD or something. It was a nasty lineup and they could defend, but hey,
that was when they had Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, this is what Brooklyn's gonna do. They're gonna roll out DeAndre Jordan. We're gonna roll out DeMarcus Cousins if we sign him, LaMarcus Aldridge, Jeff Green, and another big. We're gonna call that our Big Five lineup, our power lineup, and we're just gonna go. One of our bigs, DeMarcus Cousins, bring the ball up, and we're just gonna post up, and we're just gonna post them up. We're gonna pound the paint.
Pound the paint, though. That's absolutely insane. If you were to ever, that is something you would see out of a video game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put KD on a team, and I'm gonna put DeAndre Jordan. I'm gonna pick up Marcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, and let's throw Boogie in there too. And I'm just gonna dunk on everybody the entire time.
It can work in a video game. It can probably work in real life. That's their thinking.
It's a joke. At this point, it's a joke, and I just don't understand the multiple signings if you are Boogie Cousins, if you are LaMarcus Aldridge, because you're going there and you're playing on a superstar team, but you're getting reduced minutes. So how much of an impact are you actually making? So at this point, I think they're just chasing for a championship.
Ring chasing, what Dame said about it's ring chasing, especially DeMarcus Cousins. I think he's ring chasing. Aldridge might be as well too, because Aldridge is really at the end of his tank. KD,
but Boogie I think he has 2 rings.
He was always.
I think he got a ring with Golden State.
No, that's the year they lost to Toronto. You remember he tore his. I think he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
No, he came back from an Achilles injury that year.
But
KD, and he's never won. That's why I say he's won. I was like, I thought he's toxic whenever he's on the team that's supposed to win the championship. Even the Lakers, the Lakers last year, he got cut,
Yeah.
and it's just.
Yeah, I just don't understand it. I just don't understand why a player would go and want to do that. And I understand ring chasing, but I don't agree with it. And if you're trying to still carry your own name and have a good reputation, why are you going to a team that you're going to have a reduced role on and you're going to be forgotten?
I hope the Lakers get Andre Drummond. No, because there's no point in Drummond going to Brooklyn now. I mean, I guess I don't know what else. If you're a player like Drummond or something like that, and you go to a team, you sign for the rest of the season, you win a ring, and then you go on and sign a max contract because you're still young enough with another team. But I mean, like all these other guys, like LaMarcus, he wants to win a ring, and then maybe he tries to run it back because he's not going to get a big payday anymore.
Yeah.
DeAndre Jordan's not going to get a big payday anymore. So. It's definitely ring chasing.
Yeah, it's got to be. But I mean, these guys their time's ticking. But even looking at Brooklyn, I don't see them getting the 1 seed. I really don't.
No, I don't either.
And it's
I like Philadelphia over them. I do like Philadelphia's team. I definitely I don't like the Brooklyn team. It doesn't seem like it's a team. It seems like we just put this together. We just a bunch of we have KD and Kyrie, and then we traded away for James, and now we're going to surround them with like guys and stuff like that. I could really see that coming to bite them in the butt, in the playoffs, and we'll see.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does too, and I think that they end up losing, and all of this that they did to win a championship this year is going to go up in flames because they're not going to be able to do it next year because they don't have anybody to fill in for those guys that they just signed 1-year deals to. So I think that they're 100% all in for this year, and I think they're in trouble. But I think you and I are on the same page of that Philly does come out of the East, and they're gonna be the team to end up playing the Lakers. Really,
they've looked really good, Philly.
Unless somebody is able to come in and just absolutely dethrone the Lakers.
The King? The Clippers? You saying that because the Clippers got Rondo? Don't fall for that fool's gold, Andrew.
I don't know. I mean,
all
I'm saying, LeBron is not been able to stay healthy this year. AD has not been able to stay healthy this year. Those injuries, they kind of ail you a bit, and they could come back to bite them in the ass. I mean, it could be, Lakers, get eliminated. Who knows?
I still like our core, and I still like.
I mean,
I'm not gonna say we could turn it on, but
I mean, Utah is. I don't want to say Utah is running away with the number 1 seed right now.
Utah can have the 1 seed. They can have it. They can have it.
They're 3 games up, but
it doesn't matter to the Lakers. We don't. I mean, we do not need the 1 seed. If Utah really wants it that bad, they can have it.
I will say that if the Lakers and Clippers meet in the finals, I think whoever wins that series wins the league. Lakers and Clippers, if they meet in the playoffs at all, that's my opinion. But speaking of West Coast teams, I don't know if you saw many of the games Friday night.
For NCAA?
No, for NBA. So you'll probably think this is funny. So it was the battle of the worst teams in the West. Houston versus Minnesota.
Oh God, that sounds like a terrible game.
Houston had a 101 to 84 lead in the fourth quarter with 7.5 minutes left. Minnesota ended up winning like 107 to 101.
Oh wait, doesn't Houston have that super long losing streak going? Is it still like 20
No, so
something?
they broke the losing streak. They
Okay.
broke the losing streak, but they did not. They in 7.5 minutes they did not put up a single basket.
Houston's bad. Well, they're gonna get a top draft pick next year, and they can rebuild. With still Ardell can keep retooling with Christian Wood and John Wall and whatever else they surround them with. They should have traded. They should have just traded all their assets now, like freaking Eric Gordon and whoever they could have done.
Yeah, it was.
Wait,
just,
you mean Friday when it was 129 to 107? That was Saturday. They played against Saturday.
Yeah, they played.
Friday and Saturday.
They put up the Houston Rockets put up a total of 10 points in the fourth quarter.
Who's even on the Rockets roster? I have not been following the Rockets.
John Wall, Oladipo.
No, they traded Oladipo. Remember to Miami? They got DJ Wilson. They got Kenyon Martin Jr. They got some young studs there. They got Daniel House.
Oladipo did go to Miami. I do remember that now.
Oh, they got Kevin Porter. So Houston has a couple of young guys. I'm looking at Kevin Porter Jr., Kenyon Martin Jr., DJ Wilson from Michigan. And then they got Christian Wood still. They're going to probably have a top draft pick, and then they'll probably have cap. So they can. They can easily. It's so. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's so doable for them to kind of retool, reload, and be right back in the thick of it.
So Bradley Beal doesn't get traded at the deadline. Do you think Bradley Beal goes to Houston?
That would be nice to reunite him and John Wall, and then that would be a nice. And then with Christian Wood, and then if you're Houston, do you want to dangle that first round draft pick to Washington for Bradley Beal? Like, hey, we'll give you this top 5 pick to give us Bradley Beal. Like,
I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see.
I don't know about that one. It's iffy, but I thought that was when I saw that stat, I was kind of looking at it a little bit, and I was like, wasn't Houston ahead? And then they came back and lost. I was like, how'd they lose? And I was like looking back at the game, and I was like, they didn't put up a single point in 7.5 minutes.
Tough.
Just like, how does that happen? Like,
hit a drought.
I understand droughts, but a 7.5 minute drought, that is inexcusable, especially when you're playing against the worst team in the NBA.
It's like both teams are just one. Maybe they're just trying to tank. They're like, okay, well, who can tank the hardest? It's tough, but
just it was laughable for me, and I saw it, and I was just like, there's no way. And I sat there and I tried to do math and tried to figure out like how they could possibly lose it. And it was like they just had to stop trying at some point. But I don't understand why you would ever stop trying to score when you're up by 17 points at one point. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I had for to talk about tonight. I don't know if you had anything else that stuck out or that you saw.
Nope.
I did see that was one of the other things that I did see. The Bulls, they were able to trade for Mo Wagner from
we traded him right for Daniel Tice from Boston, like right after. I do like Mo Wagner, and I actually thought we should have drafted Mo Wagner in that draft. That was the same draft from Wendell Carter. I thought we should have taken Mikal Bridges at 7 and then taken Wagner and thing. But yeah, we traded Wagner to Boston for Daniel Tice. So.
And I do like Daniel Tice. I think he's a good player. He's a great rebounder. Yeah. Great rebounder. He's able to play in the paint very well, and he actually can handle the ball pretty well too for a big guy, which is nice, because I think there's too many times where we've sat there and we've watched big guys try and be point guards, and it has not worked out well at all.
That's funny to me because I've done that before. Especially in high school basketball. I just had on a break and I would just dribble the ball down court. I never did anything stupid though. Like, I'd always pass. Like, I'd always drive and I'd pass the ball to my guys. So I actually made really good plays and stuff like that. But it was funny because all the big guys, like, well, in high school, like, you know, if you're a big guy, they make you do all the big man drills. They don't even,
Yep.
you don't even dribble the ball, which I think is terrible. But yeah, it's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, but I mean that's what they want to do a lot. You know, they get the big guy the ball down the middle. It's an easy basket. I mean, there you go. But all right, we are that is about it for tonight. We will be back on Thursday, April 1st, April Fool's Day. No joke about it. We will be there at 8:30. We will go live. For now, I'm Andrew. My partner Sam. This has been 4 Points in the Paint, brought to you by 4Fantasy Snake, sponsored by Yard Barbers. Take care, guys.
Take care. Have a good night. See you Thursday.